Hi guys. So David Simmonds, who's a Conservative MP, was invited to talk on Channel 4 News about why he voted against extending free school meals to children. Now, before we actually get to hear what David had to say and how David explained himself, I want you to understand, first of all, I don't care who David Simmonds is, and I don't care what he's going to say on the show because it's irrelevant. What's more important is to look at how David Simmonds voted in the past, because it's very important to differentiate between what politicians say, for example, to the media, and how they actually vote, because how they vote is a better gives you a better understanding of how those people are as individuals. So let's look at some of his voting record. Now, he probably hasn't been an MP for very long, so we don't have a lot of data to go by. But this is theyworkforyou.com, a fantastic website that shows you how MPs have voted. And I recommend that you check on your MP if you're in the UK, or if you're curious about particular MPs, find out how they actually voted and compare that with the rhetoric that they broadcast on TV. So David has consistently voted against EU integration, so he's a Brexiteer. Okay. We don't have enough information about that, so that's fine. Okay. He has consistently voted against measures to reduce tax avoidance. So somebody has introduced measures to reduce tax avoidance, to avoid allowing people to funnel money offshore into offshore bank accounts or hide it away in some way. So he has voted against measures to reduce tax avoidance. So he's pro-tax avoidance. Okay. So he's a Brexiteer and pro-tax avoidance. Okay, let's see what else we can find out about him. He voted for equal number of electors per parliamentary constituency. I'm not sure what that's about. Voted against fewer MPs in the House of Commons. Okay. Voted against a more proportional system for electing MPs. Okay, so he's against democracy as well. Okay, so Brexiteer, pro-tax avoidance, and he's against democracy because he prefers a first-past-the-post system, which is less democratic than a proportional representation system. Generally voted against transferring more powers to the Welsh Assembly, so he hates the Welsh. Fantastic. Almost always voted against transferring more powers to the Scottish Parliament, so he hates Scottish people as well. Brexiteer, loves tax avoidance, hates the Welsh, hates the Scots. Fantastic. Okay. Generally voted for a stricter asylum system, so hates brown people as well. Well, he's ticking all the boxes here, and consistently voted against measures to prevent climate change. So he hates the climate. He hates the environment. Okay, so he hates the environment, hates asylum seekers, brown people generally probably, hates the Scots, hates the Welsh, loves tax avoidance, and loves Brexit. Okay, so let's hear what he has to say about poor children and how he's going to defend his position on poor children and not allowing poor children to have access to free food.
Well, the UK government wouldn't make anyone available to appear on the programme, but we're joined now by the Conservative MP David Simmonds. Let's just begin with that question about free school meals that Lucy Powell was talking about, because that was last night. You were one of the people who voted against this Labour proposal. Can you just explain to children who are going to go hungry this half-term why you voted against giving them food?
Well, any mum or dad who's worried about the situation as we go into half-term will know either from their school, from their local authority, or indeed if they contact their MP, they can be put in touch with access to the wide range of support that was available. And we heard about
a wide range of support that's available. Do you mean like food banks? Hey, if your children can't eat, well, you can go to a food bank. You know, food banks exist because we as Tories don't give a crap about the poor. We want more people to go to food banks because that means that we have to spend less money on services.
that in the House of Commons last night, a very compelling argument from the government about a combination of increases in universal credit, additional
universal credit. Now, I hate to be beating on the same drum continuously. on this channel, but I'm more and more convinced that universal credit is now being used as a train, as a mechanism to deliver people into poverty and eventually slavery. Because every time there's an economic argument presented to help poor people, the Tories' response is, well, we have a universal credit. Why not encourage people to apply for universal credit? Because once people are put onto universal credit or apply for universal credit, it's game over. I truly believe, and I'm not trying to be hyperbolic here, but I truly believe that the Tories are using universal credit as a means to deliver people into slavery. We're going to force them into jobs that they don't want to do. We're going to force them to do jobs that they have no protections in, I should say. If they complain about those jobs that they're working in, well, they'll be sanctioned because they are not allowed to complain. Their employers are employing them and not paying them wages. The system is paying for them. And they can be fired at any stage, at any moment. And if they're fired, they risk losing their benefits. They risk being sanctioned. How is that any different to slavery? Yes, the government is paying for your accommodation. We're giving you some money to pay for your accommodation. We're giving you some money to survive. But is that very much different from slavery?
Local authority funding and the work that's available to ensure that people can access the benefit system. And of course, the financial package that's been announced by the Chancellor today, that's a development of work that's been in hand for some time, is designed to put as much money as possible in the hands of working families to make sure people can...
But it's not about how much is possible, it's how much is necessary. Do they have the money that they need? No, they do not. If people are being forced to go onto universal credit, then they're not getting the resources necessary. If people are going to food banks, they're not getting the resources necessary. How is food banks a solution to child poverty?
Stay in their jobs, they can stay in their homes. And learning from the last financial crisis that the country faced in 2008-9 after the financial crash, how we can make sure that that money gets closer to the front line. So the argument about free school meals, we rejected that argument for the same reason as the Labour government rejected it at the time.
Now, what he's doing here is he's engaging in talking points. Now, let me explain what these are. Politicians generally receive talking points. These are like memos that they receive from the central committee of the party, the center of the headquarters of the party, if they're going to have interactions with the media. And these talking points are, you talk about this. If you're asked a question, bring the discussion round to this point. And for example, the talking point for the MPs, the Conservative MPs, following the shenanigans, the disaster of this vote that took place yesterday, on Wednesday. The disaster of that, where the vast majority, some Tories had a soul, and they voted against this. They voted against the government. They voted with the Labour Party, or at least abstained. The MPs who go out and speak to the media, they receive these talking points, and it's blame the Labour Party. Say the Labour Party did exactly the same thing when they were in power. It's a distraction. It's a way of, it's what's called a whataboutism. It's like, oh, we're doing crap. Well, what about the Labour Party when they were in power? It's a distraction. And unfortunately, many people don't understand it, don't understand how it works. But it's a typical tool used by politicians when they're caught, when they're cornered, when they're put in a position where they can't respond. They pull out this talking point and say, oh, what about the Labour Party?
We think that the package that's been put in place is a more effective way at supporting families.
Well, Bill, I mean, there was money given to them over the summer that isn't going to be given to them now, and you haven't got any new benefits.
Well, as the Secretary of State explained in Westminster...
Now talk about something else. No, the question was, how is it possible that when you received pressure from the public from a football player. When Boris Johnson received that pressure, he realized, oh crap, I'm actually receiving real pressure. I better do something about it. And they fixed the problem immediately. Now that there is less pressure, and the pressure, or maybe the pressure is coming from within Parliament, it's not coming from without. That's a very important distinction. Pressure that's coming from the public seems to be much more powerful than pressure that's coming from within Parliament, because the government can ignore Parliament, they can insult MPs, they can ignore them, they can ridicule them, whatever. They can say this is just them playing political games. But you can't say the public are playing political games. You have to jump when the public say you have to jump. Instead, what they're doing here is they realize this pressure is not so much coming from the public, so we're able to ignore it.
So clearly we had an unusual situation where schools had been closed for a long period of time. Families who would have been normally getting a free school meal weren't able to access that.
This is just bullshit, okay? If you wanted to fund it, you could. It's irrelevant whether the children were in school or not. This is about public pressure. Public pressure forced you to fund this campaign, this initiative. Now that the public pressure is less, unfortunately, it should be the same, but unfortunately it's less, you believe you can get away with it. This is political calculations, nothing more.
That because their children weren't in education.
Okay.
And so additional resources were put in to help deal with that situation. But as we now begin to live with a kind of new economic normal, what the government's looking at doing, as it's learning from things that we've seen go well and not so well in the past, is how we get that financial.
Okay, that's all I need to hear from this guy, because it's just disgusting. It's just trying to create excuses for his bad behavior. He voted to take money away. There was an opportunity to provide money for poor children to have a meal, and he took that away. And he can talk all he wants about how, you know, it's an economic choice and we have the funding available and we have blah, blah, blah. I don't give a crap what you have to say. Look at his voting record and you understand what type of person he is and why he voted to take away funding for children. Because he doesn't like them, because he thinks they're probably a weight for the government. He understands that. Why is he a Tory? I'm sorry. When you join a party, your beliefs are aligned with that party. Now, of course, you can disagree with some aspects of the party, but what part of the Tory party do people not understand is about throwing poor people under a bus? They don't like poor people. They would be happy with poor people just dying off. Well, not completely, because we need them to work in businesses for free. But the idea being we need to eliminate as many of them as possible in order to reduce the size of the government. Because government's function should only be to funnel money from taxpayers directly to donors. Funnel money directly from taxpayers to big businesses that will eventually provide us opportunities later on. Maybe I'm being overly cynical here, but I'm looking at the evidence in front of me. This guy doesn't give a crap about poor people. He doesn't give a crap about the Scots. He doesn't give a crap about the Welsh. He doesn't give a crap about immigrants. The opposite, actually. He voted to defend tax evasion. And now he's trying to justify him voting against providing extra funding for children, poor children. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot. I want to say a big thank you to all of my patrons. You ensure that this channel continues to exist. I'm eternally grateful for all of your support. If you join Patreon, you will receive instant access to our Discord server, where we have both audio and video chats. You can chat with me and other patrons, where we discuss important and non-important issues. Becoming a patron per month costs about the same as a large coffee, so why not check it out?